The Indianapolis Colts have some major needs before the trade deadline here in a few weeks. Should they finally reunite Trey Hendrickson with Lou Anarumo? Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and my partner, Jake Arthur, is the credentialed boots on the ground for Round Table Sports. Make sure you're checking out that site there with Jake and Bob Kravitz and a lot of great stuff going on over there. Today, guys, we're talking all about trades, and Jake and I have done episodes like this in the past, but this feels like the first time where it's actually on the table for the Colts. There actually might be some action from this Colts team. They're sitting at 5-1, number one team in the NFL record-wise as of right now. So this Colts team could be pretty active come trade deadline. They've been aggressive acquiring talent. So we're going to talk about the two biggest areas that they need to make some calls about, and then talk about some potential candidates they could look into over these next couple weeks until the trade deadline. But Jake, you and I have identified as edge rusher and cornerback are the biggest needs for the Colts when it comes to making a potential move. So I want to let you have the opening floor here and just say why these two positions in particular, when maybe they could use a linebacker, maybe they could use some other things as well. Why are edge and corner just so far ahead of other positions?
Yeah, I think anytime you've seen the Colts defense struggle this season, especially through long chunks of a game, it's usually you're pointing at one of those two areas. They're not getting enough pressure, and the quarterback is able to kind of pick apart exactly what they need. Or in the secondary, the opponent has identified usually a specific person to target, or they're just finding a particular area. Like with Jacoby Brissett, you and I had mentioned, we talked about it, I think, on the postgame show. They just kind of gone max protect, and that allowed the Cardinals to just basically go one-on-one with the Colts linebackers in coverage. So with the coverage and the pass rush working in concert, neither of it is performing at a high level right now. We've only seen the Colts pass rush really do well against really crappy pass protection teams, and even then, not so much. So you're seeing guys like Latu, who they put a ton of eggs in that basket. They didn't really do enough at edge this offseason because they were depending on a big Latu jump. And again, if you look at all the metrics and stuff, Latu's grading fairly well. He's getting a lot of pressures according to all these sites and everything. But you just look at the eye test, he is affecting the backfield, but it's got to result in sacks. What good is a pressure if it's allowing, the quarterback to convert on 3rd and 12 or something? You know what I mean? The Colts are getting too close to the finish line with their pass rush to not be actually getting home to it. And it's causing big issues. Way too often they're allowing 3rd and longs. And then in coverage, it's fairly obvious. It's a revolving door. Every week it seems like someone new is going down. And that's been the case since training camp. So at this point, they just need someone in there who probably is at a starter level and fingers crossed won't get hurt, because you just want someone consistent next to Charvarius Ward over the long haul this season. And Ward himself now has been in the concussion protocol twice. So it seems like you got something kind of special cooking here. The defense so far seems to be the thing that needs to kind of catch up to the offense and hold up its end of the bargain. To its credit, it's been very, very banged up. So it's up to the Colts front office to keep throwing as many resources at it as they can. And if you want to keep up this high level of play and you want to ensure that you make the playoffs, you're just going to have to make sure that these areas that keep getting dinged, you're throwing some sort of Band-Aid on it for now. Because at this point of the season, you can't make an enormous wholesale change necessarily. There are some big fish out there, but the most likely scenario is that you just throw Band-Aids on there to buy you time and just get you through the year.
Yeah, and one thing I really want to put on here, and I know I led the show with like, should they go after Trey Hendrickson? And we'll talk about that more in segment 2. There's likely not going to be a big trade here at the trade deadline. That's just not really a thing unless a player is like demanding move me or else I will never play for you again, which is just not really what happens in the NFL. It usually backfires on players actually when they do that. So we've had some comments here saying like, let's see, Denzel Ward, Roquan Smith, stuff like that. Like those guys aren't going to be moved at the trade deadline. That's just not what happens at the trade deadline. What's more likely is it's going to be like a replacement-ish level player. Maybe you can get a slightly above replacement level player who's in the last year of his contract, but for the most part, you're not going to get that superstar player. But the way that I kind of view this trade deadline for the Colts, if they do go about acquiring talent, is when it comes to edge rusher, they just need another impact level player, a guy who can just get after the quarterback at a better level than Ebukam and Pay, which isn't that high of a bar. It's like a replacement level pass rusher, essentially. Just getting another one in here. So I think if there's going to be more of an impact type move, it would be at edge rusher. And then at corner, they just need bodies in here. Like I think on the defensive line, they at least have bodies that are adequate at football. At corner right now, they barely have anyone left. I mean, Jake and I were in for tryouts earlier today. We didn't get the practice squad signing, unfortunately, but it just shows that they're going to get Vince Papale out here and have everybody in the town try out to get out there at corner, because they just are down to their like 9th and 10th options right now at outside corner, and they're down to like their 5th option at slot corner. So I think at corner, it's just about getting capable bodies that Lou Anarumo trusts to play some man coverage for them. But edge, I think, is really the spot where if they're going to make like an impact level move or like an above replacement level player type of move, it's going to be edge rusher, because that's what they really need there. And there's just more edge rushers in their final years of their contract that make more sense than corners. There's not really many people moving corners, or heck, like we saw with the Browns, when they actually did move a corner who was starting caliber, what did they need in return? A starting caliber corner coming back, So you have to kind of give up something to get something there, which is why the Colts couldn't make a move on Greg Newsome, because we don't have a corner to give you. We don't have anything to give you back. I think the bigger move would be an edge rusher. I don't see a big move coming at corner, because I just don't think many big moves are going to be like trades at corner. And then when it comes to like the linebacker conversation, the linebacker is just not as important a position in this defense to make a big trade. Like I think if there's an opportunity out there, say the Giants are like, we need to blow it up, which they aren't, because they need to win games this year. But let's just say in a hypothetical world, they were like, we need to blow this up, and Bobby Okereke were available, then sure, go make that move because it makes sense. But I just don't see a move out there at linebacker that really makes sense. So that's why I'm on edge and corner are my 2 big ones that I think the Colts are going to look at. Again, edge, they need some kind of impact rusher who, again, can just get home at the quarterback, give some pressure off the edge, and be an upgrade over Ebukam or Pay. And then at corner, they just need breathing bodies out there.
Anybody.
They just need anybody who can run a 4-3 and not fall down in press man coverage. And I think they might be fine there at corner.
Yeah, and of course, the trade market might be a little iffy this year. For agency, there's some options out there, not great ones. Obviously, it's about mid-season. There's a reason they're free agents. But the trade market, I'm curious how it's going to look, because this has kind of been a weird year in the NFL where some of the top teams that wouldn't be sellers. They are floundering a little bit, or they're not exactly where they want to be. They're not head and shoulders above the rest. So those guys still aren't going to be sellers. And then the teams that you would expect to be really low, they've either heated up lately, or there's like injuries or something, and it has limited their flexibility to trade off some of those players. Because if you're a low team like the Giants or something who's actually catching fire a little bit, well, right now you don't really feel like being sellers, because you're starting to win. You're starting to get a little momentum. Now, like the Jets, I don't know. At Chicago at one point I thought maybe, but they just won, against the Commanders as well. So I don't think there's going to be as much movement as if you would have asked me about a month ago. Yeah, but at the same time, the Colts, the whole point here is the Colts have to do something, because all offseason they've been telling us they expect to win. And then whenever a leak in the boat comes up, they're going to try and plug it immediately. And they've got some leaks right now. And they are the number one team in the NFL. Like, I know, like, to some outside fan bases and stuff, that may seem silly because it's week 6, week 7 now. But that's the fact of the matter is they're in prime playoff position right now. They just need to finish this thing off and keep doing what they've been doing. But they're going to need reinforcements in order for that to actually get home.
Yeah, I think as of right now, the teams I have as for sure sellers are the Jets, the Saints. Those are absolutely sellers.
Yeah.
I think Dolphins are kind of in that conversation as well.
Maybe throw Arizona in there.
Arizona, maybe Raiders, maybe in there.
Yeah.
But I think some of these other teams that we're looking with poor records, like the Ravens, they're not going to sell because they're getting Lamar Jackson back soon. We're not seeing the Giants sell. They need to win this year. Everyone's fired. The Bengals, we'll talk about that more in the next segment. But
Yeah.
no, there's a better chance of me owning a team tomorrow than the Bengals doing anything. But we'll talk about that here in the next segment on edge rushers that the Colts could target and that could make sense for this Colts team. But first, nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I love personally that Built I love that with Built, your rent can finally work for you. You're earning points every month on something that you already have to pay. So whether you're grabbing food at your local favorite restaurant or heading to the gym, you're still earning those rewards. Built has made everyday life feel much more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. So turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use your link so they know that we sent you.
All right, guys, you've got a pulse. So you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. And, when there's problems arising and you're not super confident, it's exactly where Rougiette's Go Long comes in. It's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even a little into the next day. You know what I mean? The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. Again, cannot stress that enough. A lot of people might be a little bit bashful about that, but you know what? They're not going to give your secrets away. So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, then head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off of your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so that they know we sent you. All right, welcome back, everydayers. We are talking about some urgency within the Colts. They are on top of this thing, 5-1. The Bills lost last night, so the Colts, they're sitting relatively comfortable because I think everyone thought, yeah, the Bills are going to overtake this thing in the AFC at some point. But you know what? The Colts are still hanging in there. But they want to be proactive. They want to make some moves to make sure that the problems they're having right now don't snowball into something bigger. And so Zach and I have identified edge rusher and cornerback as the 2 really most dire situations that you really need to address. So we're going to talk about some options here at edge rusher, either through the trade or free agent market. And so, Zach, the elephant in the room, as has been since Lou Anarumo became an Indianapolis Colts coach, is Trey Hendrickson. So obviously plenty of turmoil between him and the Bengals throughout the entire offseason. At the 11th hour, they struck an agreement on a new 1-year deal. So Hendrickson still is technically in a contract year with them. Financially, I think he feels better about it, but there's so much going on there that you think probably after next year, after this season, maybe they go their separate directions. And again, they drafted Shamar Stewart, so they tried to get his replacement in there. So I think there's been times throughout this calendar year where I'm like, they could really do it or absolutely not. But the fact of the matter is, Lou Anarumo has kind of become the North Star for all of his former players. We've seen Mike Hilton, Jermaine Pratt, Joe Bocci. Like we've seen several guys either already come back to Lou or have been heavily rumored, still kind of drawn a line right to him. And until the trade deadline passes here, I think it's like November 7th, or it's like the first week of November. Um, until that deadline passes, I think the Colts are still going to be a team that people mention as an option if the Bengals feel like moving Trey Hendrickson.
And that's the big part. I'm glad you mentioned that very last part there, Jake, because here's the thing. It makes all the sense in the world for the Bengals to sell on him, sell him to a team, and it makes all the sense in the world for the Colts to be the buyers. But here's the thing. Have you ever gone into an offseason in baseball and said, man, these Pittsburgh Pirates are going to pay $1 billion in payroll? Have you ever gone into a season and said, man, the New Orleans Saints are not going to tack on 30 void years at the end of every single contract? No, because that's how those organizations operate. So we know how the Bengals operate. It's just not what they do. The Bengals could lose every single game by 70 and be 0-8 by the trade deadline, and they would still be trying to buy to win. They would still be just holding on because they love the optics of letting guys walk rather than trading guys. They're the weirdest franchise. I do not like them as a franchise. They've always been my least favorite franchise. So here's again, they would need multiple first round picks plus more to even answer the call because they're just a weird franchise like that. Yeah. So I love the idea of Trey Hendrickson. I'm all for in the offseason, go out and sign him. Go get him in here for a 2 or 3 year contract and reunite him with Lou Anarumo. I think that's very much on the table after the year. There's no dealing with Cincinnati though. You just can't do it. So I think a much more realistic trade deadline option is Jalen Phillips with Miami Dolphins. Now,
I like that.
It's difficult because the Dolphins are in that weird situation where every single person there might be fired if they don't win this year. So it's hard to make trades with teams like that, similar to the Giants, where the Giants need to win every single game possible or everybody in the organization gets fired. So why would they trade players away? But the Dolphins do kind of feel like their owner does step in a lot. He does facilitate some trades sometimes. And I think a player like Phillips, who's going to be a free agent after this year, has 2 major injuries in recent memory as well. I think that's more of a get that you can go out and acquire at the trade deadline. So I think that's the one for me. If you're going to get an impact pass rusher, I think Jalen Phillips or Jermaine Johnson from the New York Jets, who's due $13 million next season. I think it's his 5th-year option. He's also had an injury history. They like Will McDonald a lot more, and Will McDonald has more control because he's on his rookie contract still next year. So I think Jermaine Johnson or Jalen Phillips, if you're going for the big swing at edge, those 2 are the ones that make the most sense and might actually have teams that are willing to play ball, unlike with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, if you're going big fish, I think those guys make a lot of sense and are actually perhaps movable. If you want to go a step down and you're looking at a Samson Ebukam level acquisition for them, I'm looking at Baron Browning from the Cardinals. I think he had a sack against the Colts last week. He's done some nice things, at least a couple weeks in a row. This guy is I think he's solid against the run and can give you some pass rush juice as well. And then Arnold Ebiketie from Atlanta. Now, I think he had a sack last night as well, and a big win. And, they drafted Jalen Walker and James Pierce both in the first round. You trade off a guy like Ebiketie, and then you get a little bit of, trade value back in what you moved up for James Pierce. So if you're looking at it's not going to be a home run, but, you hit a double, you get something productive. I think those are kind of the level of guys you might be going for. And then another thing we'll tell you guys, not all of the names we'll mention we think are super realistic, but we kind of put out the bat signal to some of the other hosts over at Locked On to see among corners, among edge rushers, who from your team do you think might realistically be movable at the trade deadline? So Zach, go ahead and run through some of these other names. We'll kind of put a temperature gauge on who might actually be realistic or not.
Yeah, so New Orleans, Carl Granderson was mentioned. The problem with him is he's got a lot of money due after this season, and to get off of that contract, you have to take on $18 million in dead cap. So I think he's a fine player, but if New Orleans is taking most of that contract on, would I actually take him? Because that is obscene contract there. Alex Wright in Cleveland is a free agent after the year. I don't think that they'd be willing to move him because he's a good young rusher, but it never hurts to call. Michael Clemens from the New York Jets has not had the best career with them. So he could certainly be, someone available for like a very low, just get another body in here. And then Malcolm Kuntz is a free agent after the year as well with Vegas. I think that can make sense. Arden Key with Tennessee. He has void years after the year. And he hasn't been very good with Tennessee, but again, like just getting another body in here. I think for me personally, though, I would go 1, Jalen Phillips, 2, Baron Browning are my 2 guys.
Yeah.
I
Jermaine
don't
Johnson.
know. Yeah. Jermaine Johnson's fine. He'd be my number 3, but I think Baron Browning makes so much sense because he used to be a linebacker in college, like an off-ball linebacker who switched down to playing edge. And with how often Lou is dropping defensive ends in coverage, that would be a cool skill set to have. So for me, I really like Baron Browning's fit. Only a $9.4 million cap hit next season as well. So you get another year of control at a pretty affordable rate for when EduCom and pay come off the books. So I do like Baron Browning a lot there. And then Phillips, I think, has the potential to be very good. So I think if you're looking for an impact edge, those are my 2 realistic guys that I think I would call about.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at least 1 or 2 of those guys gets moved at the deadline. And shoot, I mean, the Colts should be on the horn looking to get edge rushers around the league. So, I mean, some of these are not so far-fetched. I think pretty necessary, I would say. So coming up, guys, we're going to dig into the cornerback room. And there's actually a couple cheaper options out there in the free agency market and even a couple on the practice squads of other teams. All right, guys, the NFL season is in full swing, and FanDuel's got an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. That's right. You just pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across their entire app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action, whether it's Thursday night, whether it's Sunday at 9:30 Eastern overseas game, whatever. Whenever the Colts aren't playing, or if you like the nail biters and you want to bet on the Colts, it just makes watching football, especially when it's not your team, that much more exciting. Whether you're a casual fan or you just love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience just that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back, everydayers. We are talking Colts and what they really, really need to address before the season is over if they want to maintain this high level of play and keep their position among the top of the AFC. So let's just start with the big swing here, Zach. Riq Woolen with the Seahawks. So it's crazy because he was like a 5th-round pick by them in 2022, I think. He was the number 1 Build-A-Ballard corner that year, if I'm not mistaken. He fit like a glove with the Colts. He goes out, again, day 3 pick for them, blows up. I think he had like 6 picks, shared the lead in the NFL, was a Pro Bowler, and then he's just been super inconsistent since then. Seattle has added more resources to that secondary. It's a new scheme. He was drafted with Pete Carroll's defense. They're now with Mike McDonald, and it just hasn't always been great. So he's going to be, if he gets traded, he might be the kind of instance where it needs to come with a new contract if he wants that. So that could be a little tricky, but I don't know. Seattle's also got some injuries in the secondary right now, which may have kind of put a damper on his trade market if you would have rewound 2-3 weeks ago. But yeah, it seems like 2 sides that might just kind of be over each other, So it wouldn't be shocking if he gets moved.
Yeah, he's probably the only high-profile corner that's available out there because, I mean, we have some comments here that are saying, go get Sauce Gardner, go get Isaiah Rodgers. Those guys aren't getting moved. I'm sorry, guys. I wish it was like Madden. I wish you could trade for these type of guys, but it's just not how it is. But Riq Woolen is interesting because it does seem to be some friction between both sides there, and it's very unlikely that he's going to get extended by the Seahawks. But on the other end of that, like you said, they have injuries in the secondary, and they're like the 3rd best team in football right now. Yeah. Like, when does a contender trade away a player unless they're getting something big in return? And what can the Colts afford to give big in return? Like, we can't give you guys something. We need all the pieces we have here. Yeah. So I don't see him getting moved unless it's for like another player of a similar caliber to another team, like a better scheme fit. But I will say after the year, like if you are convinced that his head can be screwed on right here in Indy, all for bringing him to Indy because he has the size and the speed and the playmaking that the Colts look for. It's just, I don't know if it can actually work here as a trade deadline deal. So Reek Woolen would be great. It's just, I don't think that they're going to move him, especially with the injuries, like you mentioned. Like they're a winning football team right now.
Mhm.
His play's been better the last couple weeks when he's had to step in. So even if he is the third corner on their totem pole
Uh-huh.
on the outside behind Josh Jobe, that's valuable to a team that's winning football. I mean, gosh, I would kill for a third corner right
I
now in the
Yeah.
Colts.
I think even he had a concussion recently, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
he himself has been banged up a little bit.
Yeah. So I think the guys who are actually going to be available just aren't the sexiest names because who's trading a good corner in the NFL unless you're
Right.
getting another good corner back, which the Colts can't give up. Again, they're down to their like 10th corners on the outside. It's just the nature of what's happened at that cornerback position. We've had a lot of comments about Jalen Jones, by the way, and I don't think he really factors into starting for the Colts. And a second hamstring injury, I don't think he's going to play much
Yeah.
this year anyway. So if you're looking at trading for a corner, I think the biggest one and probably the best one is Alontae Taylor from New Orleans. And luckily, he's been on his rookie contract with New Orleans, so he hasn't been attacked by those void years. So he could actually be tradable, unlike anyone else in New Orleans with those disgusting contracts. The problem with Taylor is he's a physical corner who makes a lot of plays and tackles fairly well. He gives up so many yards in coverage and he has a lot of missed tackles and he's so high and low, so hot and cold there. So like if you're giving up late picks for him, sure, but I feel like if you're New Orleans, you just let him hit the market and you get a third round comp for him or a fourth round comp for him when teams overpay on the market. And if I'm the Colts, I'm not like, no matter how desperate I am, I'm not giving up a third or a fourth for Alontae Taylor. He's just
No.
been way too hot and cold for me to give. I know the Colts are desperate, but Taylor, I feel like I can get all the coverage, all the yards allowed in coverage from Jonathan Edwards than for free than with Alontae Taylor.
It's true. Yeah, they've got another one too. Isaac Yiadom. That's another one. Ross Jackson mentioned him as an option, a possibility. He's got $7 million, I think, against the cap remaining over the next 2 years. Not this year, but 26 and 27. So he's inside a 3-year deal right now. So New Orleans thought enough to sign him to a multi-year deal like that. Roger McCreary was someone that was brought up by Tyler Rowland over with Tennessee. Now they're weird. They just got rid of Brian Callahan. You don't know what their vibe is right now. Are they going to try and salvage this season at all, or are they just getting ahead of the rebuild they know they need to get in front of? That one's weird. Now the Colts, I think last week worked out Kendall Fuller. That is someone I think literally every time I have ever mentioned the Colts going out to get a veteran corner, Kendall Fuller's name always comes out of my mouth. So the fact that they actually worked him out recently, and it looks like Lions practice squad now. They worked out Levi Wallace Monday. So that's another good one. Dane Jackson from the Bills practice squad, and then Shaq Griffin from the Seahawks practice squad. So there are some veterans who have played some good ball before and fit the kind of height, weight, speed parameters for Colts that I think make some sense.
Yeah, I don't know if a trade makes sense for the Colts at corner, just and not even because they don't need talent there. They need it. I can't find a name out there that makes sense for them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because you could even go to like a Brandon Stevens, for instance, who just got paid in free agency by the Jets, has a connection to the Colts, to Chris Hewitt, the Colts DB coach. So it's like, okay, the Jets are selling off pieces maybe there, but he's got like 4 years left. 2 of them are void years, and they're making $14 million per year. And he's had a bad season with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you don't want to get stuck in this. You don't want to get stuck in this rut where you're like playing so like desperate that you're throwing out money for bad players, So I think at corner, like, again, I think at edge rusher, go out and get like a Jalen Phillips if that's possible, because that's an impact player. Go get a Baron Browning if that makes sense. Those are impact players that help your team. But at corner, I just don't see an impact player that really helps you. So I'm more of the opinion where just go get bodies. Just go get more and more bodies as possible. If it's a Dane Jackson, if it's a Kendall Fuller, a Levi Wallace, Shaq Griffin, those kind of veteran guys who've shown that they can turn and run a little bit still, if they still have the legs with them. That's the big question, especially with the older guys like Griffin and Fuller. if they still have their legs with them, like for sure, just get bodies in here. That, like, how much different or how much worse could it really be? So yeah, I think the big thing is just get bodies in here at corner. Just keep throwing more solutions at the problem, and just hope that one guy steps up and has a good run, because that's all they really need right now. But we'll see at corner. I struggle because, like, if Isaac Yiadom is your top option, he's making $7 million the next couple years, and he probably has a lot of void years on there too, right? Is what you mentioned, Jake? It's the Saints. It's the
yeah,
Saints.
sure,
So you have to eat all that dead cap and void years that come with it. It's just tough to trade with the Saints because of the way they structure contracts. So, there's a lot of elements to this that can muddy the waters. You're probably, like, your best option is almost always trading for a rental that is on his rookie contract and this team's not willing to pay after the year. So again, like, an Alontae Taylor could make sense because of that, but it just depends on what his price tag would be. If his price tag is in the late picks or like pick swap, sure. But I think they'd want like a fourth for him. And I can't do it. And McCreary's a slot corner with the Titans, which I guess the Colts kind of need right now too. I mean, we need anybody right now, but again, it's kind of a weird fit. So if you guys have suggestions, and I'm sorry to keep calling this guy out, but like, Sauce Gardner's not getting moved, buddy. I really want to just say that real quick. But like if you guys have better options out there, I think that we could see, if you guys could let us know. But I struggled to find one, especially on the teams that are for sure selling.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled to find one that makes sense and that isn't going to put the Colts in like the worst cap situation in the history of football after the year.
Yeah. So I think Levi Wallace and Kendall Fuller are probably the ones I think would be probably the best idea to just go ahead and do it. Another guy along with McCreary that could play inside as well, whose name was brought up when I asked for options around our network, Noah Ebogeni from the Commanders. Apparently better. Yeah, I don't know how to say that last name. Don't worry about it. He's from your area there in Virginia.
Big crush of mine back in the day, so I had practiced his name all the time in a mirror.
Exactly. But a guy who could play slot, can play outside, I guess is better in the slot. But Kenny, I don't know how long Mike Hilton's supposed to be out. We don't have a great answer on that yet. But I do think it would be wise to have someone ready to go behind Kenny Moore, just in case, worst case scenario. Now, I do like Chris Lamont. So if they wanted to just stick with Lamont, I'm fine with that. But again, at the rate guys are dropping, constantly throw guys in there. You almost have to.
Yeah, I would say Chris Lamont is their second best corner right now, Jake. So we're almost at the point where, if, say, Kenny came back this week and we're just all scared to death every time he moves out there because of the Achilles injury. But let's say he comes back this week, you might want to put Chris Lamont at outside corner because he might be their next best guy at this point. They are just down bad at corner right now. But I agree with you. I think maybe you can get like a Levi Wallace on the practice squad, maybe call up a Troy Pride off the practice squad this week and just see if those guys can be a little bit better than what Edwards gave him. I'm not fully out on Jonathan Edwards, by the way. You guys know I really like him. It's just, you saw how young he was, where it's like he's not separating man from ball. He was right there in coverage on every coverage snap, just couldn't separate man from ball. And if you're going to play this much press man, you got to be able to do that. So yeah, we'll see. Again, I just think at corner, just throw as many bodies at the solution as possible and see you can have. But edge, I think I would want to make a trade here in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks, whatever it is. If you can get a Phillips or a Browning in here, I think it makes your team so much better. And I think that's the way the Colts should go. But you guys let us know in the comment section what you think. I guess me personally, I don't think a Hendrickson or a Reek Woolen deal is going to come to fruition, but we'll see. Chris Ballard has been more aggressive this year than in past years. So let us know in the comment section what you guys think. And we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day, today and every day. The NFL season is finally here, so if you're next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of NFL espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2, all on socials. Also subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.